The Other Side of Fear, a backpacker's memoir by Jenni Reavis. Unhidden Heroines book series, book number 1. Chapter 18. Up in Flames. I destroyed myself as often as possible just to see what else I could become. Myra Adlow. I arrived back in Medellin the first Friday in August, which also marked the last weekend of the famous flower festival that took place every year. I wasn't too crazy about pushing and shoving my way through nearly 30,000 people filling the streets, but I also knew that if I didn't go, I may never have the chance to go again. My God, I am so glad I went. It was a life-changing experience. Hernan and I had 4 marvelous days of fun. He took me to the flower festival on a long hike to a lookout tower that showed a 360-degree view of Medellin, and then to a bookstore where we talked for hours about our favorite literary works and we shared our live streams and passions while we stuffed ourselves on homemade desserts and coffee. My last night there, he surprised me with a candlelit dinner on the rooftop of his apartment building. What made it so special was that his love was pure. He never tried to touch me, kiss me, or flirt with me. He shared genuine, pure love and generosity. I remember that night like it was yesterday, how the moon and stars adorned the night-light speckled city of my queen, Medellin. Then it was time for me to meet Sebas at a restaurant by a busy subway station so that we could have lunch and then drop our things off at a hotel. Not every place has a contract to accept foreigners, but after asking around, we finally found a place that would be fine to stay for one night. Sebas kept talking about how excited he was to go partying that night at a bar where a friend was bartending in Medellin's gay district. I was exhausted and not remotely in the mood for any such fuckery. But all his sashaying around the hotel room, waving his ass around to Beyonce, finally convinced me to make a compromise. It wasn't safe for him to go alone, so I offered to go for a couple of hours with him only if he promised to leave whenever I was ready. In Colombia, it is rare to find a place that sells single drinks unless it is a kiosk with a vendor selling drinks in the street. It's legal to drink everywhere in public at any hour. Bars and clubs sell what's called bottle service, where you can choose the size of the bottle and the server brings you the bottle, the mixer of your choice, a bucket of ice, and however many glasses your table needs. We got there so early that by 8 p.m., we were set up with a bottle service on our table surveying the night scene. I was slumped over on our table, watching men from the ages of 15 or older interact. I couldn't connect to the music. I didn't feel like I had anything in common with anyone around me. My whole body felt like a lead weight. I was so tired. A Red Bull was not going to help me. Sebas was engaged in a conversation next to me, and I was gazing into space in the direction of the bar, when it caught my eye that the bartender tossed a small bag of something on the bar top for a customer. The customer opened the baggie, did a bump of the white powder, gave a nod to the bartender, and then took off with a friend in the baggie to the bathroom. Did they just do cocaine? I had flashbacks of the episode many years ago at an after party, the one time I had ever done it. Sebas's buddy got up to get a drink, and I turned to him. Did they just do coke? I whispered. He laughed and said yes. I want to try it. Oh, my sensors went off inside. You're playing with fire. Then came the lies where the fuckery always began. You're in a different mental state now. It'll be different. Do anything you want, you badass. He did a double take and studied my eyes, very surprised at my proposition. He had never been acquainted with this side of me, the side of me that had the power to build a village with one hand and then burn it down with the other. He looked at me square in the eyes and said, Jenni, I will not judge you. We are on vacation. Do it if you wish. But with the condition that you promise me that it will only be a vacation thing. We are away from home, so there are no judgments, no responsibilities, no talk of work. Nothing is off limits on vacation. But you must leave it behind when you are done with Santa Marta. When our vacation ends, you are done. Promise me. I let him look in my eyes, and our eyes locked for what seemed like a while. He was serious. I knew I was opening a chamber of darkness. I knew I was playing with fire. I pretended like I didn't know anything about the world of drugs and addiction. What I really learned about myself in that moment is that it didn't matter how many borders I crossed. There was still an ember alive in me whose glow beckoned self-destruction. It always burned, and just a blow of oxygen on it ignited it into fire, burning down myself and everything around me. I felt powerless to choose anything different. That had been my home for years. Okay, I promise, I said. He nodded and got up to go to the bar. Sebas whispered something in the bartender's ear and came back to drop a gram of Coke in front of me on the table. I couldn't believe that I had just ordered a gram of Coke from a bar like it was nothing. I asked Sebas how much it cost. 10,000 Colombian pesos, which was $3 in United States currency. I could order a gram of Coke for $3 from a bartender. I was fucked. I looked at the white powder in the bag laying on the table in front of me. I remembered bits and pieces of the night years ago after my bankruptcy and thought about Alex in the bathroom the night he shot heroin. I wanted an adventure, some excitement. I felt invincible. Maybe it would have a different ending. Maybe it wouldn't end in destruction. I wouldn't know unless I tried it, just like I'd always learned to swim by diving into things head first. Let's do shots. Sebastian poured 2 shots of aguardiente. And put that away. I don't want to be associated with that shit. I stuck the gram of Coke in my bra. We started drinking, people watching and lip-syncing the music. The alcohol made me feel even more tired, and being so tired escalated the effect of the alcohol. I felt buzzed and sloppy, like having a conversation was such an effort, and in my effort, I sounded like a drunk slob. I hated it when I got too drunk too fast. It was not a combination for a promising evening until I remembered the magic baggie in my bra. I decided I was tipsy enough to take a trip to the bathroom. I was about to do real cocaine in the bathroom of a bar in Colombia. I didn't have a straw on me. I would have to do a line with a rolled up bill, just like I saw people do hundreds of times in my earlier addiction years. I could pretend like it was a $100 bill like rich people do in Vegas. I cut 2 fat lines in the back of the toilet. But first, I looked in the mirror at myself. You know you may not ever come back out of this, right? Was the truth I was staring at right in the mirror. What good would it ever do you to be successful in your life if it always ends on a path of self-destruction anyway? It always had, no matter how hard I tried to do anything else. May as well go out of this world feeling numb then. You're a survivor and you'll survive this too. I rolled that bill as tightly as I could, and then I made those lines disappear like a pro. Like I'd done it every day for my whole life. I was obviously a pro at anything that set myself on fire. I tilted my head back to make sure it had all gone in, just like the guy at the party had shown me years ago. Then I wiped my nose with some toilet paper. I looked in the mirror on the way out of the bathroom. By the time I got back to my table, the whole right side of my head was numb from my forehead all the way down to my neck. I was completely sobered up from alcohol, and my heart was racing, and I felt an orgasmic euphoria in my brain. This Coke was way different than the Coke before. This Coke was fucking incredible. I didn't feel sloppy anymore. Actually, I felt like I could do anything. It was like I had a whole new window to the world. I couldn't wait to explore all of it. It was a feeling like nothing else I had ever experienced. I wanted more. Feeling the Coke directly was too much. But to tame its effect with alcohol was the perfect sensation ever. Too much alcohol was unpleasant. But to tame its effect with Coke was fantastic. It was a match made in hell. For the rest of the evening, I went back and forth between the two. We ended up getting a new bottle, and when I felt too tipsy, all I had to do was take a trip to the bathroom and do a bump or two. I had no concept of what time it was. I just knew I was having amazing conversations with so many new people, and the alcohol didn't take me out like it usually did. Suddenly, Sebas told me that we needed to finish the rest of our bottle and tab out since the bar was about to close at 4 a.m. How could it be 4 a.m. already? I finished my gram about an hour before that. I wanted more. I was about to start 4 stressful months of internship work and university responsibilities, and I wanted to check out as much as possible before that began. I didn't tell Sebas I was going to get more. I went back up to the bartender, Alexander, and asked him for 2 more grams of the best Coke he had. He told me that a gram of something better would be $6 instead of $3. I couldn't believe something so amazing was so cheap. Maybe there would be no Coke wherever I was going. I couldn't risk being on vacation for a week without it. I had no idea that Santa Marta was a major port for Coke exportation all around the world, and then I would be surrounded with the purest Coke that Colombia had to offer. I didn't need to know that yet. We got back to our hotel room and was finally able to doze off, just to take restless naps off and on until about noon the next day. I woke up fully expecting to feel the scratchy-eyed shakiness that would usually follow a night of drinking, but I didn't feel hungover at all. How could we have drunk so much and not been hungover? I realized then that Coke was not only a buffer for being too drunk, but also for alcohol-induced hangovers. The Coke I did before was such terrible quality that I didn't even know that. Wow, I had hit the jackpot. I never had to face drunkenness or hangovers again. I had a new friend for the rest of my life. We had to shower off the club from the night before, gather our things, and head to the airport to catch our flight to Santa Marta. I took my shower first so that I could have privacy gathering my things while Sebas took his. When I was making sure that my passport and wallet were in my satchel, I saw those baggies of white powder in the bottom. Jesus, I had almost forgot I had them. What if I would have forgotten they were there and gone to the airport security with them, just hanging out the bottom of my purse? Dumbass, I told myself, get your head on straight. That was the first of many months to come where my head would be sideways. Then, the thought of having Coke in an airport sent adrenaline surging through my whole body. It was far too fantastic to leave behind. I couldn't wait to see what a whole week of this euphoria would feel like. Other people pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for something like this, and for me, it was like hitting the dollar menu. I heard the shower shut off. I stuffed the 2 grams inside my shoe. Surely it would be fine. It would know. I couldn't wait to do my first line as soon as I got to our hotel room by the beach. I felt my panties get wet just thinking about it. Sebas stepped out of the bathroom finally and peeked out to see what I was doing. Ready? I felt the corner of one of my baggies poking me in my right foot like a dirty little secret. Yep, I can't wait. We got to the airport and printed off our boarding passes at the electronic ticket booths. We followed the signs pointing the way for domestic flights. We got to the door where we were required to show our boarding passes and passports, got through that checkpoint, and then when I was staring straight at the TSA agent station where we were required to go through the metal detectors, I felt my stomach drop to the floor. What if they required us to take off our shoes? Jesus, I didn't think to put that Coke inside my sock. How could I get that Coke inside my sock without anyone noticing? Shit, this might get bad. What if I get caught? Once you were through that door, it's too late to go back. My palms started sweating profusely. Chill. Maybe they're not making people take off their shoes. You just took a domestic flight last week and didn't have to take off your shoes. What are the people ahead of you doing? I felt the butterflies in my tummy flee as I took a deep breath and casually looked at the people ahead of me. Whew, nobody was taking off their shoes. Oh my God, I got a green light. I got through security. As soon as I got to the area where there were terminals, I felt this orgasmic adrenaline rush surge through my body. I had to celebrate. We still had an hour to kill before we boarded, and both agreed that a piece of chocolate cake and a coffee from Juan Valdez sounded superb. We got situated there, and then I told Sebas I was going to the bathroom. As soon as I got to the private family bathroom and locked the door, I took off my shoe and sat on the toilet, looking at that Coke in my hand. How amazing would it be to do a line of Coke in the airport bathroom? My dirty little secret, like a hidden lever I wasn't allowed to show the world. I stood up and looked in the mirror, got out my key, and did 2 bumps off my key while looking at my nose in the mirror. Made sure to get all that residue off so that nobody from the outside world would know what I just did. I wondered if that's how every office secretary felt after getting loaded with afternoon dick behind closed doors, straightening hair and wiping off mascara that had run underneath her eyes. This time, I put the Coke inside of my sock, and then I put my shoes back on. I was ready to have a crazy week on the beach. I went back to where Sebas was and let him have my portion of the cake and coffee. That was another thing that Coke depleted, my appetite. I sure didn't need any of the coffee. If I were too jumpy, it would be obvious to others around me that I just had a rendezvous with drugs in the bathroom. My heart was racing, and I secretly enjoyed the euphoria in my head. It felt even more erotic knowing I did it in public and nobody knew. I wanted more. I decided to wear my sunglasses so that nobody could see my eyes. Finally, it was time to board our flight. So we got up and stood in line. I was standing behind Sebas, enjoying my high and studying people around me who wouldn't see me checking them out behind my shades. Suddenly, out of my right eye, I saw 2 police officers and a drug dog nonchalantly strolling along heading toward us. Holy shit. During the domestic flights I had just taken while traveling in Huila and Bogota, I hadn't seen dogs. Not for domestic flights. For an international flight, understandable. I felt my stomach drop again, and my palms started dripping from sweat. If they didn't smell the coke in my shoe when they walked by, the dog would definitely smell my nervous system putting off crazy toxins. They were still about 30 feet away. It was too late to go hide anywhere. Our flight was about to board. Panicked thoughts were racing through my mind. I was fucked. There was no way I was getting past this one. It was only a couple of grams, but would that be enough to be arrested? The police were always looking for a reason to fuck with foreigners because of corruption. They were always looking for ways to make people pay money. I recalled the episodes of Locked Up Abroad that I used to watch. We would miss our flight. I would be the reason our trip was ruined. Sebas felt my energy shift and turned his head to glance back at me. He needed to know. Sebas, I have coke in my shoe, I whispered forcefully under my breath, just loud enough for him to barely hear me. Last night, I bought 2 more grams and put them in my shoe before we left our room. He hissed back at me from the corner of his mouth. Are you fucking insane? To an airport? I responded. If anything happens, you don't know me. Get on your flight, don't wait for me. And then nodded in the direction of the approaching dogs. He turned to look at them and then felt all the terror that I felt. About 10 feet before us, one of the officers got a call and stopped the talk. Jesus fuck, start boarding the plane. Board, board, board. Our line started to move. Go, go, go. Both officers were engaged in a conversation on their cell phone with another officer who was dealing with a conflict at the airport entrance on the first floor. They were trying to figure out if they were needed there. Yes, go the other direction. Our line moved past them, and then they ended the call and continued to stroll along. Someone ahead of us in our line had lost their ID at some point between security checks and our boarding. Our line stopped. I felt my intestines literally drop to the floor, and between the coke I had just done and my adrenaline surging through my body, I thought my heart was going to blow out of my chest. They already moved past us for a few seconds when suddenly the dog started barking. My eyes got wide behind my sunglasses. I was fucked. They got me. The dog smelled me. I closed my eyes and waited for the dog to grab my ankle any second. I waited for what seemed like an eternity. What would I say to them? They were going to arrest me in front of all these people. The dog was still barking but never came. Our line was still stopped. I stood there waiting for a dog to grab my leg, and time seemed to be frozen. Sebas turned his head to see what was going on, and he whispered to me, They got someone else. Huh? I casually looked back to see what was going on. The officers had subdued a couple of European guys who were in a line to board a flight to San Andres, a famous island destination off the coast of Colombia. The guys were sitting on the ground with their hands behind their back, and the cops were going through all their belongings in their open suitcase. The dog sniffed out an 8-ball from each of their bags. Holy shit, that was almost me. How in the world did I escape that? Our line started to move again. Now, I only had to get through the jet bridge and onto the plane. We boarded our plane. I just got through an airport with 2 grams of coke in my shoe. I was sitting in my seat looking out the window, and my adrenaline level was so extreme that I was certain I was going to have a blowout orgasm right there in front of God and everyone. If it were that erotic of an experience to get through with just a couple of grams, how much more intense would it be to get through a port of entry with a large shipment and make tens of thousands of dollars? As soon as we got back from stocking our room with goodies, I had to celebrate by busting out one of those grams and doing a fat line. We brought a 5th of aguardiente to our room to commence a week of fucking off on the beach. We did shots and hit the streets to start exploring the beach and the neighborhoods. That night, we found a local hotspot, a club called La Puerta, where we played African music, salsa, merengue, and reggaeton music. We were there dancing for hours while I took breaks to go do bumps of coke in the bathroom. Our first full day there, we met a guy downstairs, Carlos, who sold tours. We instantly connected and agreed later we must have known each other in a previous lifetime, or some similar connection. We knew we would be lifelong friends. We didn't know he would be a lifeline to save my ass later. I did this all week long, sleep during the day, venture out to explore in the late afternoon or early morning, end up having day drinks, start the Coke whenever I got tipsy, and be up almost all night with drinks and Coke. Sebas would go to bed between midnight and 2 a.m. after we got back from La Puerta. I would stay up by myself and snort lines off the bathroom counter, taking breaks to take shots, smoke cigarettes out the window, write, and listen to music in my earbuds. By the time the week was over, I couldn't imagine leaving Coke behind until my next vacation. It felt so normal now, as normal as having my best friend over for dinner, letting herself in my house anytime she wanted, taking what she wanted from the fridge, and staying for however long she liked. Did I love how it made me feel? Or did I love how it prevented me from feeling? Which was it? It didn't matter. It was a part of me now, and I would keep it as my dirty little secret.